Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of an Irish knitting podcast. I am Sam. I'm an artist, illustrator and aspiring knitting designer coming to you from a very gloomy and rainy Dublin in Ireland. You can find me all around the internet. All the links are going to be below in the description. And if you are a new viewer, thank you so much for coming by. This is my attempt of a knitting podcast in which I try to talk to you about my finished works, works in progresses, acquisitions, and literally anything that is happening in my crafting and knitting world. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back, and thank you for your support on my grumpy podcast a couple of weeks ago. Really, it means a lot. Sometimes you receive bad comments from YouTube and you don't really have the instrument to process them. So thank you so much for your kind thoughts and all the lovely comments. Really warms my heart. So what do we have today? We have not much knitting, if I have to be honest, but we have a finished work. I don't know if you can see it in the room. We have a couple of works in progresses. We have some crochet. Funny enough, I never crochet before, but that's something that we are trying on this podcast as well. And at the end of the video, I would like to address a question that I very recently received on YouTube about knitting jumpers or sweaters in the round. And we can actually get started, but I'm looking out of the window and looking into the viewfinder of the camera to see how the light is working because it's extraordinarily raining. As us knitting podcaster do like very much a weather forecast, this is the weather forecast for the week. It's extraordinarily rainy and cold in Ireland, but I think this is true all around Europe. I'm seeing all my fellow podcasters around Europe wearing jumpers and knitwear and being extraordinarily cold and raining everywhere. I've been calling my family down in Italy and it's very cold and really unexpected weather for June. And this is us here in Ireland. On the east coast where I am, it's going to be a very interesting weekend. Hopefully we'll get some sunshine, but today it looks quite grey. Never fear, it's a very good weather for jumpers. So let's start with the finished work for this week. This is a jumper, a sweater that I was knitting in the last couple of weeks. You've seen this as I think a bust type of thing. And it comes from this gorgeous book here. It's Icelandic Knit. It's a book that I got on a trip to Denmark a few weeks ago, last month probably. And I couldn't refrain but cast on a jumper. This book, first of all, is a collection of different designers' designs, patterns for sweaters, and you can get a lot of round yokes there. And this is exactly what I was craving: a beautiful round yoke, color work, nothing to think about, just knitting the round, bottom up, Bob's your uncle. I love it so much. The pattern that I've been using, if I can find the page, is this one. It's Around the Log Fire by Maria Oyampera. I'm going to put all the informations below in the description where you can find the pattern, the book, and as well my own project page. So this is a wonderful round work, color work. Was really inspiring. I have made some modifications, of course, and I will tell you about those in a second. First of all, last time I told you that I wasn't sure you could find the pattern by itself rather than having to buy the book, but I actually found the pattern on Ravelry, and the link is below as well. So let's talk about yarnage first. The main body is the only one that I'm gonna tell you right now because it's the only one that I remember for sure. But if you are interested in all the details of all the yarns that I used, you can find it in my previous podcast, the Grumpy podcast one. The main body, the main part of the sleeve, is knitted in Drops Daisy, which is a merino yarn non-superwash. And I'm stressing the non-superwash part because it is the first non-superwash yarn, merino yarn that I find. Now, an appeal to you, if you know about other brands that do non-superwash merino yarn, let me know in the comments below. I'm super eager to try more of this type of yarn because I'm telling you, this jumper is amazing. The fabric that this yarn creates is just perfect. It's soft, it doesn't itch at all. It's like you're wearing a cotton hoodie, something that you don't even feel like. I could wear this on my bare skin and not feel the itch of the wool at all. Anyway, this is a 50-gram ball by 110 meter, and I paid for a ball €3.75, which is great value for money. It's a decay way yarn, so I could really play around with colors and other decay yarns. For example, we have some Drops Lima, which is the purplish color that you will see here. We have some Drops Merino Super Fine, Extra Fine Merino, another decay yarn that I had in my stash. We had some Sadness Garn Peer Gynt as well, which is another decay yarn. So this jumper here, apart from, of course, the main body, which I had to buy yarn for, everything else was scrappage of yarn here and there that I had from other projects, and they were just lying around without having any purpose, so I put them here. For example, the mustardy color, it's I would say 10 grams of Peer Gynt, and it just looks fantastic. The white part as well is about 20 grams of Drops Merino Extra Fine. So all scraps put together in a jumper. I really wasn't sure about how the color would play together. I didn't have as much choice as I would like to. As you can see, apart from the white and the mustard, everything else is very dark, and the main body as well is very dark. I understand, looking through my stash and my leftover yarns, that I like darker colors, and even leftovers are darker colors, so it's quite interesting. But although I was really doubting my choice of color at the beginning, I really like the finished work. I think it's quite masculine and it's just nice. It's not very flashy. It's it gives you some interest as well. I really love it. In terms of modifications that I've made, so first of all, I decided to knit the third size, which is knitted for a bust circumference of about 95 to 110 centimeters, and I am bordering the 100 centimeter in bust the measurement. It works just absolutely fine. Because it's a new pattern, because I don't swatch, I know I should, I took into consideration a pattern that I have knitted many times, which is the Ridari sweater by Istex, and I'm going to put that as well in the links below. It's one of my favorite round yoke color works, and I really love that. So I know exactly where I'm at with that pattern, and I could put side by side the stitch counts and see what size would work for me using the needles that gave me some sort of gauge, and using the same or a similar construction. Needle-wise, I use 3.5 millimeters for the ribbing and 4 for the main body. Modifications that I made is cuffs, neckband and waistband. The pattern calls for a roll-up situation that I don't quite like on myself. So I decided to make straight cuffs, straight neckband and straight waistband. That always work. It's really easy to make, and it's nothing interesting, but it just works fine. Something that I've done though with these cuffs here, I've no idea if you can see anything on the camera, but I'll tell you about that. It's an Italian cast on, so a tubular cast on for a 2x2 ribbing, which is something I've always avoided before. Italian cast on or tubular works extraordinarily well for 1x1 ribbing, but not for 2x2 ribbing. To make it work, you have to change the order of the stitches to get 2 purls and 2 knits. I thought that would have been very difficult, annoying, laborious and all of that. But actually it's quite easy and really satisfying. So yeah, I warmly recommend it. If I am going to cast on another jumper bottom up, that will definitely be the cast on way that I'm gonna use, because I love 2x2 ribbings. I think they are interesting, are nice, are very stretchy, and I love a tubular cast on, if I can say. So that's basically it. I didn't add any other modification. Yes, I add another modification, short row wise. The pattern tells you to make short rows on the neck side. Just before picking up for the neckband, you are supposed to do short rows, and I've done that. But knowing myself and my body shape, I added about 7 short rows before the yoke started. So before the collar work of the yoke started, on the back side of the jumper. So it gives me some more length on the back side, which works fantastically as well. I use German short rows for my works. It's just easy. You need basically flat, make a short row, knit to the other side, then go forward of a few stitches and back. I didn't use any patterns, it's just kind of experience. I'll be happy to talk more about short rows if you wish, so let me know. That was it for this jumper. I really like it. I think it fits extraordinarily well. Yeah, that's it. Oh, something I need to mention. There has been some trouble with all of this situation. I started making the collar, my first attempt number 1. I started making the collar, I cast off, sewn in, finished the work, and I've noticed that the short rows for the collar were starting from here to the center back, so giving me one shoulder longer than the other. It wouldn't really have been a problem, but we have, I'll show you here, a line of purple stitches which incorporates the short rows. You can see how they are larger here. It's this round is bigger. So that was completely slanted towards my left side. And for a split second, I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not touching it. The jumper is going to go somewhere. I don't want to see it anymore. You know, when you finish a project, I always feel like that. But at the end of the day, I unraveled, pick up the stitches, and knit the shirt the right way. Yeah, that's it for this jumper. I really hope you like it. I certainly do, and it fits super well. That was basically it for finish works. We can start with the works in progresses. I'm also battling with a coming headache. I have had an headache for the past 2 days. You know, you take a pill, something, paracetamol, whatever, and it goes. But I feel it is just here about to come, and I really don't want to take any medication the 3rd days in a row. I don't know, it's probably just stress or wrong exercises or lack of exercising. I have no idea. Really hope it doesn't come up, and yeah. So, works in progress. Ta-da! We have this. I know that everything is very dark today, but this is the yoke, the beginning of the yoke of the wonderful Billy pullover by Sari Nordlund. You know this pattern, I've knitted this a few times already, and it's always one of my favorite patterns. So why did I decide to cast on another Billy pullover? I think I have 3 or 4 already in different colors. Because of the color, of course. I was on a trip to Ireland. Last week was my birthday. I became 21 once again. And I went down to Killarney, which is a town on the west coast of Ireland. It's really beautiful. I know that probably you know about Killarney, but if you don't, just go and visit. I stayed in a fantastic hotel. It extraordinarily posh, extraordinarily expensive, but really worth it. Massive outdoors pool and spa situation on a lake. What can you wish for more? Gorgeous food and a lot of hiking, horse riding, everything that you want for a little weekend break to celebrate your birthday and 1 year as well as an Irish citizen. So I went there. By the way, you don't need to know about my private life, but I'm telling you anyway. I went there, and we were in a pub in town one night, and there was this guy wearing a iron jumper, classic traditional Irish iron jumper, in this gorgeous burgundy color, and I was like, oh, I absolutely need one myself. It looked amazing, and I couldn't wait. So this played in my mind all weekend. I was like, oh, I need to buy yarn, I need to find the right pattern. So as soon as I came on Monday, I was into my stash looking for yarns and looking for potential patterns, and I found that I didn't need to buy yarn, and I already had a pattern in mind that was always playing in my mind. So it was a beautiful match in heaven combination. I will have this gorgeous burgundy color jumper with a pattern that I absolutely love. So the Billy pullover, let's talk about the yarn first. The yarn is this one. This is J.C. Rennie Bordeaux Mix. It's in the label inside here. It's a finger away lamb's wool, kind of super soft yarn, like a host garn if you wish. Comes into this big 500 grams cone that have a lot of spinning oil, so when you knit they are quite tough to knit, and knitting cables is really tough with this yarn. But when you wash it, it becomes fluffy and really, really soft as well. Hence the name Super Soft, I suppose. I'm holding this double to make a decay way, and so far works perfectly for this jumper. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get this yarn anymore thanks to Brexit and some importing issues. JC Rennie has been my first love in terms of sconing type of yarn, and I really love this color. For some reason it stayed in my stash for the longest amount of time and I never used it, but it was the perfect color combination for this jumper. The pattern itself, it's foolproof. Now, foolproof is not as easy as I remember it. I don't know if I grew older and my mind is not able to follow anymore or what, but it was kind of tricky to get the rhythm of the pattern. Now I am at the end of the yoke, at the point in which I will start casting off for the sleeves and knit the body. So far so good. I probably need to go down a few more repeats in order to get the length that I want for my yoke. Everything is in the pattern. Sari Northlund pattern are just amazing how they are written, and this is the same. So yeah, the interesting thing is that, of course, being bottom up, you start from the top, but the last few patterns that I knitted bottom up, top down, you start from the top. The last few patterns I knitted in top down, you knit the back piece and then you knit a short rows, basically you cast on stitches for the middle. In this case, you really don't do that too much. You knit just a tiny bit of the back and then you join the round straight away. It's a nice little thing that I like. I don't really like knitting flat, so that was basically it for this jumper. I'm knitting the third size for reference. And yeah, anything else to say about this? No, I really hope it flies by, although in my mind I have a million other customs that I wanna make. Definitely casting on this afternoon will be the sweater number 29 by Andrea Mori. It's another cable sweater that I've seen just up on the Andrea Mori Instagram account. It's gorgeous. It's full on cables and I wanna knit that in this Drops Daisy. I think I have 5 or 6 balls left, so I'm gonna start that and perhaps next week buy the rest of the yarn if I can go through that. And yeah, that is once again back in my mind. It doesn't let me go. I really want to make the sweater number 29 looks amazing, and yeah, it has saddle shoulders, which is something I never tried for a cable jumper, so that's coming up. In terms of works in progress, I mentioned before that I have some crochet. Here we go. By the way, everything is hosted in this Hessian's bags, tote bags, mala in Irish if I'm right, that I get from local grocery shops. This is from Fallon and Burns, which is a very local, very posh grocery shop, but you can find amazing stuff there. A lot of Italian produce as well. So yeah, unfortunately, no shame, I'm shopping a lot in Fallen and Burns. But this is hosting a pile of granny squares. Let me find a nice one to show you. They're all the same. Here we go. This is the granny square that I'm making. This is a pattern that I kind of found on the internet, and as well I modified to make squares and make something that was on the plan, you know what I mean. So it's an interesting color work in crochet, and you start from the center. You knit the first round of this flower, then you knit the little piece of the background, the second round the flower, second piece of the background, the third round of the flower, and the full background. Now the original pattern, if I find it, which is a very remote possibility because I think I was just browsing around the internet, they tell you to stop at the end of the flower with one row of the background or two, but I added one round of granny square or double crochet. I have no idea about the terminology here. I know that in Italian they are called punti alti, which is tall stitches, which I think in UK is double, in American is treble. I could be very wrong, so we call it tall stitches. And I added 2 rows of those, plus the corner made with, I've absolutely no clue. It's called in Italian punti altissimi, which is very tall stitches. It's when you get the yarn 3 times through the hook of your crochet. But yeah, anyway, I'm making a lot of them in a lot of different colors from stash yarn, and you can recognize them. This is a little piece of the Peer Gynt that is here as well, that is in my zipper sweater light. This white, it's here as well, it drops merino extra fine. The gray, for example, is a sock yarn held double. The purple is this purple here. So a lot of scraps, a lot of enjoyment as well. I find that this project is great in a couple of levels. First of all, is great as a scrap busting situation. I end up having a lot of half balls of yarn, 2 3/4 balls, 1/4 of a ball in a bag, that I always keep thinking, oh well, I could make a bit of color work, I could make an accent to a jumper and stuff like that. But yeah, it was time to get rid of those. When I knit a jumper, apart from probably this one here that I'm wearing, I tend to buy yarn for that, which gives me with more scrap yarn. And I'm very ashamed of this, but I've thrown away yarns like that before, and now it's just all sitting in a bag. So this is the best project to get rid of those things and not feeling guilty and having more space in my yarn stash. The second level is the actual knitting of it or crocheting of it. Being used to knitting, crocheting is just very mindless and very easy, and it's very fast as well. So you get to knit very small pieces, and you get to be super quick with this and having something done in no time, so boost of positive energy as well as a finished product. And yeah, and even the act of crocheting, in my mind at least, is just very mindful, and I don't know, makes me feel well. Doesn't make any sense to you. Now I have about 15-16 of these done. I'm not planning to put them together anytime soon. This will probably become a big blanket. Now you see all the colors are just matching together quite well. Of course, these are all colors that I have used in jumpers before, so they are all colors that I like. They all fit together, which is quite interesting, and I haven't realized that until I actually saw these together side by side. Like, for example, let's find another one. They all look lovely together, which is really nice. I don't know what to say. It's just very nice, very heartwarming, this project to me. Now I have a couple of questions to ask you, because I'm not a crocheter at all, not experiencing crochet at all. For the longest amount of time I thought about making a big crochet pattern. If you are a long time viewer, I have started a few. Frog them, start again, frog, not working. I don't like granny squares. I think they are too holy. There are too many holes. And if I want a blanket, I want a very sturdy one. If you see this, this is full fabric. This is the back, by the way. So, just fell on the ground. Let's take another. So there are no big holes, and I think this will work fantastically for a blanket. A couple of suggestions I need from you. First of all, how do you block this to be all the same shape? Is there a tool I can buy or make, or you just block them with pins? I really would like to understand the situation there, because I have no idea. Do you even need to block them? Let me know. I am very eager to understand how you block this and how you make them all the same. They are the same stitch count, but like these two, although minimally, they are a bit different in size because of the different yarns, of course, or the different tension issues, whatever. Anyway, let me know the blocking thing. The second piece, second bit of advice I would like to ask you is how you put them together for a blanket. I know there must be millions of YouTube videos out there or techniques. I really would like to have something a bit seamless between the two, the two squares. I don't know, do you have a favorite way to put them together, either crocheting or sewing? Let me know, because I'll be really interested in finding out a nice, interesting, professional way to put this together in some way, shape or form. Let me know. I'm very grateful for all your suggestions, please. Thanks. And that was the end of the works in progress. Now I could say that I wanna start the jumper number 29, so I could count it as a work in progress, because I know that is gonna happen right after I end filming this video while I'm editing, but I'm not gonna say that. That will be a surprise for next video. So headache check, we're still okay. Hopefully it's not gonna disturb us too much, at least until we end up this podcast. Let's answer this question I've received last night on YouTube. Someone was asking me to talk about how to knit a jumper in the round. Now, I know there are plenty of tutorials there, plenty of patterns to refer to, and probably this won't be as informative as other videos for this purpose. But I would like to give my 2 cents on this thing, this technique, what I've learned by my experience as a knitter, and if I can help you a little bit with understanding what is knitting in the round if you're not familiar with that. If you are familiar with that, you can absolutely skip this part. Thank you so much for watching. But if you would like to come along with me in this journey, I would be very happy if you can perhaps contribute in the comments below. I think a lot of people knit flat and then seam together, like my mom does that, my granny does that, my great-grandmother used to knit flat, and seam together is probably the widest and best known way to construct a jumper. I have tried that a few times, it never worked for me. I do prefer knitting in the round. So basically, knitting in the round, I have my notes here because there's a lot to say about that. Knitting in the round, I think, I always picture this in my mind, is like knitting shapes. So the shapes that you need, if you are knitting bottom up and top down, is the same thing. You need 1, 2, 3, 4 shapes. You need a pipe, a cylinder for the bust, the body. You need 2 small cylinders for the sleeves, and you need a funnel or cone shape for the yoke. That is it. So no matter if you're knitting from the bottom and up, from the top and down, you need this shape. 1 big pipe for the body, 2 small pipes for the sleeves, and a funnel shape or a cone shape for the yoke. And doesn't matter what type of jumper you build, what construction, what type of feature it has, always these shapes. So that is the first thing. Now, I just said bottom up and top down. Let's start with the bottom up. So bottom up is, by the way, my favorite way to knit a jumper. You start from the bottom of the jumper, so from your waistband, and you knit upwards. Then we have some choices to make here. We can have a raglan, for example, and you knit until you are on your underarm, and you knit the pipe of the body, the length that you want for your underarm, starting once again from the waist. Then at that point, many patterns tells you to cast on stitches for the underarm. You do that and you leave it aside. In this situation, then you cast on the sleeves, once again starting from the bottom, so from the lower part, from the wrist, and you knit up until you reach the desired length for the underarm. The pattern would tell you to cast on sleeves corresponding to the underarm, and you put the sleeve aside. You knit the other the same way, casting off the sleeves, the stitches for the underarm. You leave that aside. Now you take all these 3 pipes together and you put it on a needle. The needle, of course, must be a circular needle, so those needles with a wire between them. Unluckily, I don't have any here, but you've seen me during this podcast fumbling about my needles. So you put all of that together. So the body, the sleeve at the point matching the stitches that you just cast off, and the other sleeve as well. Now starts the point in which you need to knit up the pipe, knit up the cone or the funnel shape for the yoke. So if it's a raglan, you will decrease for your shaping in 4 different points at the joints of the sleeves with the yoke. In 4 points you decrease all the way up, so you create the funnel shapes that goes up. In a jumper like this is a round yoke, the pattern will tell you to decrease at some stages all the way up a number of stitches until you get a smaller circumference. Now, raglan wise, you go down in 4 points, so you create a sort of a 2 triangular shapes, actually 4 triangular shapes for the chest and the sleeves and the back. If it's circular, the word says it's just circular, so you create a much gentle slope for your shoulder. Now, which one I prefer? I don't know. I knitted a lot of raglan in my time as a knitter. I knitted a few circular yoke. It really depends on the style that you kind of want. Now, we have another way of knitting bottom-up jumpers, which is with sticking. So in this case, you get drop sleeves. What is sticking? Sticking is slashing through live stitches and joining your sleeve in, sewing them through those cut-up stitches. So how do you do that? So first of all, you knit the pipe of the body, the cylindrical pipe of the body, until your underarm. Then the pattern will tell you to cast on a number of stitches that will be used for the sticking. I generally cast on these stitches in a purl, for example, so that I know where they are, or I put stitch markers. You knit up the body, the cylindrical part of the body, including the stitches of the sleeve, until you are about at the shoulder level. The pattern will tell you to cast on or cast off or put on hold a number of stitches for the neck, and you will knit flat for raising your neck. So what you would do with short rows, for example. At that point, when you are happy with the length of the neck, or when the pattern says it, you will join the shoulders, the stitches that are left for the 2 shoulders, so the opening and the shoulders. You join the 2 of them to kind of create the funnel shape that we're talking about, to join this part together. You leave it aside, knit your sleeves as the pattern says. Cast off the sleeves. Now, the stitches that we knitted from the underarm on the top of the shoulders, those purl stitches that I like to knit purl, those will be the sticking part. So you will find your middle stitch, you cut through those. Then there are plenty of techniques. Some people like to reinforce those stitches. Some people just don't do that. Some people like to use a sewing machine to stitch across those to avoid unraveling. And it all depends on what type of yarn you're using. If you're using a very woolly, rough yarn, the stitch won't unravel. And when you sew the sleeve into those stitches, it'll be completely fine. I don't know, personally I prefer to give it a pass with a sewing machine. Doesn't take any time and is always more secure than other methods, I think, but it's up to you. You can find plenty of tutorials on the internet about that. So you cut through those stitches, very terrifying, but it will be fine. And then you sew in the shoulder of, you sew in the sleeve using mattress stitch or any type of stitching that you prefer. I do like mattress stitch because it's invisible. And that is the other way of knitting from the bottom and up in the round. Now, sticking can be used for a million things. You can knit in the round a jacket, a cardigan. So you add those sticking stitches in front, and then you cut through. You pick up stitches for the neckband, and you have a cardigan. You can do a V-neck shape. So you cast on those sticking stitches on the V-neck, you knit up, then you cut through and you get a V-neck. You can even, I've seen that done, especially by Arne and Carlos, knit the pipe of the body until the shoulder piece, and then join the thing together, and then cut through your live stitches in order to get the collar to slope down as if you would be doing short rows, but you don't do short rows. So you keep knitting in the round until the very end. And you cut through the stitches, you pick up for the collar in a half moon shape type of thing, and you will get your nice little slopey collar, which is great. So sticking, it's terrifying, but it's not that difficult and it works all the time, at least from my experience. Now let's talk about bottom down, top down, which is something I'm not very familiar with. So everything that I said for bottom up is true for top down. Does take into account that instead of decreasing, you increase, because you start from here. Now, there are things that I've seen done only in top down, like saddle shoulders. So how do you do that? You knit the back, the front of the top yoke, usually flat, and then all the way down to the pipe of the body. Then the sleeves are knitted up with a saddle on the top. Other methods tells you to cast on in the round, in some shape or form, knit the saddle at the same time, and then the sleeves. Everything is reverse, as you can see, from the top and down. If you make a raglan, you generally cast on flat, make short rows, join together, find 4 points you want your raglan stitches to be, knit the yoke, and then leave the sleeves apart in waste yarn or something, and then knit the body. Afterwards, pick up the stitches, knit the sleeve. It's very easy and simple. Same for the round yoke as well. Knit with increases, as the pattern tells you. Leave the sleeves aside, knit body, knit the sleeves from the pickup stitches. Easy, isn't it? Anyway, I'm sure you can find so many tutorials, patterns all around. If I can recommend you a pattern, that would probably be some Sandnes patterns. Now, caveat here. Sandnes jumpers are usually bottom up, and then there are different construction for the yoke, but they are generally knitted from the bottom up, which is probably my favorite way to knit a jumper. Why is it so? Couple of reasons. First of all, I like the stitches to be this way. Someone referred them as smiley stitches because they are up rather than down. They are sad stitches. Someone called them flies versus fleas. I don't like that I prefer call them smiley stitches, and I do like them especially in color work. I think when the stitches point up, they are just much nicer. They're little smiley faces. And the second part is that I am more familiar with that style. I have knitted a lot of sunless patterns, of course, and yeah, I got used to knit it like that. I find a bit embarrassed when I'm knitting top down because I really don't know how the yoke is supposed to behave and so on and so forth. But it is something I'm going to try more and more. Why I'm recommending Sunless? I'm not sponsored or anything, although Jesus, I wish I was. I'm recommending Sunless because they are very simple patterns, bottom up. They are all the same. They have beautiful designs, and as well, they give minimal instructions. And those instructions that they give you, they are just at the point. They don't tell you row by row what you're supposed to do. They don't tell you all of that. But you get to learn the technique after that. Does it make any sense? I hope so. Anyway, if you that ask the question is here, watch this video, please let me know if this answered your question, if you found it interesting. If anybody has anything to add to this, once again, I know there are millions of books and stuff on this topic. I really hope I gave a small summary of what it is knitting in the round. Please add below in the comment if I missed anything. I'm sure I did. The last little thing I wanted to mention here is that you can modify a jumper from flat to in the round. If you have a pattern that you absolutely adore of a jumper knitted flat, you can eventually modify it to make it in the round. Just remember, knitting flat, we always have one stitch at each side of each piece that is a salvage stitch, so you need to remove those stitches for the count. In a body is 4 stitches, in a sleeve is 2. Just remember that, you'll be fine. I promise you. That was it for today. We still don't have a massive headache, although I can feel it coming here. Today is going to be a day of putting this video up, starting my sweater number 29, of course. If the weather changes, I might actually be able to go for a run in the late afternoon after work. And yeah, that's basically it. And by the way, today is St. Anthony's Day, Sant'Antonio da Padova. And happy name day for all the Anthony, Antonella, I don't know what's the English translation for a female name of Anthony, but happy name day to you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye bye.